Hi friends, I hope you've all had very nice holidays if you celebrate and are resting and recovering from the festivities. We had a busy time. Last weekend we had two parties to go to. The hosts of both of these parties celebrate both Hanukkah and Christmas, so they had sort of the end of Hanukkah, which I believe the last day was last Sunday, the 21st, if I'm correct. So they had parties on the 20th and 21st and kind of celebrated the end of Hanukkah, the beginning of Christmas, and just, friendship. And so that was really fun. And then the past week, I had the youngest generation of our families over to decorate the Christmas cookies on the 23rd. And then on the 24th, we went to my sister-in-law's in the evening for dinner and Yankee swap and a few little gift exchange things there. And then on the 25th, I had a brunch here at my house with some of other family members, and we had our gifts on that day. And so it was a busy 3 days, and by Friday the 26th, I was very glad that my boss gave me the week off because I was good for nothing. I was a little overstimulated and pretty tired out. I did get a few little miniature things, a couple of little miniature things for Christmas gifts. One is a kit, and honestly, I think I left that upstairs, but it's a kit to build a piece of furniture. So, at some point there'll be a video about building that. And then I also got this lovely sewing machine on a table, and it actually, let's see, turn it this way. This actually turns, and you can see the little needle going up and down here. And the foot pedal actually also moves, but it's rather stiff, so I've been trying not to force it. But yeah, I think this piece is really nicely made and very pretty and perfect for my dollhouse, so I was really happy about that. I did pick this out. This was on my wish list, but I made a good choice. As far as dollhouse things that I worked on, obviously not much, but on Friday, when I was too exhausted to, I thought Friday I would spend the day in my workshop and just do all sorts of miniature things on my Friday off, but I really had no brain cells left. So the only thing I managed to do was put some wallpaper into my photo box, because I'm trying to kind of spruce up my photo setup a little bit, and I'm really struggling with this. I'm struggling with the vision for my photography for my Etsy shop, and I would love your input on this. I love when an Etsy shop has a really beautiful, coherent sort of photographic look, so that when you call up their listings for the shop and you see all of the items listed, they all have this sort of cohesive appearance. And I think that that's primarily made up of having a consistent background, which is one thing I try to do. But also there seems to be sort of a general color theme in the shops that have that look, and it's beautiful. But my question is, what do you do when you have an item to sell that doesn't fit the color scheme? And I think if people are making maybe hand knit sweaters or something like that, maybe they work in a particular group of colors that all work together, and that's what they choose to do, and so they get that cohesive look. But I'm trying to create kind of a soft background look for my photography, but then what do I do with this item? This bright red mixer, which I love and am very happy to list in my shop, really doesn't go with that soft faded sort of neutral background color. I also have a really hard time understanding how something is going to translate from real life to a photo, what it's going to look like in a photo. So here are some photos of my sewing machine in the setup that I have so far. You can see I tried some things with a little planter, and the curtains are just kind of stuck here with a window that wouldn't work, but I just was trying to get the overall effect. But I thought about putting a French door with a scene behind it, or a window, but then I don't know if I'm getting too fancy with my background and if the background is going to be too distracting. I think that in some of my photos I would like to have, especially furniture, maybe in a room that looks like it has a window and a planter in it. So maybe I'll keep the window, you know, glue the curtains to a window that I can prop up there and then take down. And then do close-ups. I like this photo where the background is sort of blurred out because it's such a close-up photo. And I thought that I would need to do something with the bottom of the box to put some sort of floor there, because the floor doesn't, you know, particularly match the wallpaper, but I don't know, I think maybe it looks okay. So, and I want you to comment on the photos for me and tell me what you think I could do to fix them. Do they work? Do they not work? You know, how can I spruce up my Etsy shop photo game? So love to have your input on that. Now, last week I hinted at a little adventure, and yesterday we had that adventure. So I live about an hour away from Brattleboro, Vermont. Straight shot up 91, it was a very easy drive. And a local friend of mine and her daughter, and then a friend of mine from Vermont, were all going to meet, and we were all going to go up to Brattleboro. My friend from Upper Vermont was going to come down and meet us there, and we were going to spend the day there. Sadly, my Vermont friend was not able to come because they had kind of an emergency at the last minute. Everything's okay now, but they had a medical emergency with their daughter that they had to deal with. So thankfully, everything's okay now. She's fine, but she did have to miss the outing. But my local friend and her daughter and I drove up 91 and went to this Brattleboro Festival of Miniatures. I didn't realize that this was the first time this event I'm tired still, had been put on. And it was the vision of the woman who restored this dollhouse. And she enlisted the help of a lot of local artists to furnish the house. So there are paintings and furniture pieces, and I don't even know. I mean, we could have spent hours just looking at all the little things in this dollhouse and trying to find all the wonderful secrets that it held. But a lot of local artists contributed to the furnishings and the details in this dollhouse, and her vision was to create sort of a miniatures event. So for the entire month of December, all of the shop windows in Brattleboro Center were decorated in some kind of miniature way. So there were miniature train sets. There were, I don't really know how to pronounce this word. Is it Mila or Mila? The Danish bunnies and mice, the miniatures and their toys. So there were those. There was a shoe store that just had a lot of very small stuffed animals that they had kind of put into their shoes, and they were, you know, one of them was in a shoe reading a book in bed, and there were the little animals were doing all sorts of things all over and around the shoes, and they weren't of any particular scale, but it was just a really cute scene. Some people went really all out. Some people just did a little room box or two. There was apparently a contest between some schools locally, and so children at the different schools kind of outfitted and set up some different houses. Same house, but they all set them up differently. And there were a number of events throughout the month of December. Now, by the time we got there on Saturday, all of these events were over, but I guess there were puppet shows and tea parties and pop-up markets, and I think there were some discussions or workshops, lectures. I don't even remember everything. There was a whole month of events relating to these miniature things. It was very cold. It was in the mid-20s, but my friends that I went up there with are intrepid adventurers who lived for several years in Alaska, so they weren't fazed at all by temperatures in the mid-20s, and I handle the cold pretty well. It's the heat that bothers me, so I did fine. And we just went and explored all the shop windows and the shops, a lot of lovely galleries and gift shops, and, you know, you know, it would have been a really nice place to do some Christmas shopping if had we been able to get there before Christmas, but this was our only opportunity to get up there. So I did pick up a couple of little things. So one of them was just this little elephant charm, and I just thought he looked like, I don't know, kind of a neat little sculpture piece that my Dollhouse family might have picked up on some travels somewhere or something. I think elephants with their trunks up like this are considered a good luck symbol. So that can go on a mantle or on a table or something in my dollhouse. I'll bring that in closer so you can see it. I thought that was pretty cute. And then the other thing I found in a sort of an antique thrift shop kind of place was this bed warmer. And I did a little research on the internet. It does open. And I found that this seems to have been sold by B. Shackman, I think it is. And sadly, they seem to have had a reputation for a lot of really nice collectibles and miniatures and dollhouse things. Sadly, they've gone out of business. It looks like they went out of business around 2018. So that was a shame, but I did find this little piece, which I think is appropriate for my dollhouse. Now, my dollhouse is technically heated, not real life heated, but it's got radiators in it. So I'm envisioning the house as having been updated to a somewhat modern heating system for the late 1920s. But I think something like this would have still been around. They might have still liked to have, you know, warmed up bed sheets. I have found another inspiration for my house. So a lot of the inspiration for my house comes from the old Cheaper by the Dozen movie, which was set in the late 1920s. And last night, I rewatched a favorite holiday season movie of mine, which is It's a Wonderful Life. And there's a banner on the wall of the graduation that says Class of 1928. Perfect, because that's the year I picked for my dollhouse. So I've found some inspirational images, which I need to figure out how to find them and download them. It seems like you can't screenshot a movie. I've been trying to do that and it doesn't work. So I need to figure out a way around that, because there are some images in the original house that the two brothers live in at the start of the movie that I think would be great. Some lamps and some furnishings and things that would be great for my house. And then later in the house that the main character and his wife and children live in, I noticed that they have a stove very much like the stove in my dollhouse. And they have kind of an older style telephone, and by this point in the movie we're post World War II, but they still have older things in their house, which I think is what people would have done. The point is that George and his wife Mary don't have a lot of money, because George devotes himself to his father's business after his father dies, and he makes a lot of sacrifices in life for the good of his neighbors and friends and family, and never really accumulates a great deal of wealth. So it makes sense to me that in their house they wouldn't have the latest and greatest furniture, the latest and greatest stove, the latest and greatest telephone. And even though my dollhouse is huge and it's a has a lot of rooms, I see it as a house that the family has lived in for several generations. They've accumulated a lot of things over the years that still work fine. And remember, things were built to last back then. You could have a stove for 40 years before it died. And so I see my house as having a lot of older things in it, with a few modern updates like radiators, a vacuum cleaner perhaps, and things like that. Okay, so I think that's everything I have to report this week. I feel like there was a lot, even though I actually didn't do a lot of things to deal with my own miniature crafting. But I do hope that next week, my boss has given me next week off too, because she's so nice. Not usually. Usually she's a terrible taskmaster, but this year she was being nice to me for Thanksgiving. I got the week off. Christmas I got the week off. New Year's I got the week off. Um, that's a joke, by the way, because I am my own boss. I teach piano and I took those weeks off. But usually I'm pretty hard on myself about taking time off, so. Anyway, yeah, so I hope that in the days ahead you get a little bit of dollhouse time, a little bit of miniature therapy, and do let me know what you think about those photos. I think that's all I have to report. So have a good week, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.